morning, good afternoon, good evening. Yesterday, there was drama in Zimbabwe. President Emmerson Mnangagwa was giving his State of the Nation address. And whilst he was still in the middle of his speech, the whole parliament lost power. They were thrown in darkness. So he had to finish his speech using a torch. And this, as you can well imagine, has caused a lot of laughter and mockery, and rightly so too. This is an important building. Parallel to a hospital. You should not have seen situations like that happening. Yet they lost power for about 10 minutes before it was finally restored. The response of the regime has been typical. Here is the Speaker of the House talking on the incident.
I think it is proper that we apologize to His Excellency the President and the House for the electricity outage. And matters had been arranged that there would be an automatic switch on over once there was a problem either with ZESA or our generator. It is, however, important to note that we shall go beyond what happened and trace the culprits and deal with them accordingly. And those that will be found wanting will regret the day of their existence.
That is a worrying threat. Very worrying indeed. This is the parliament we are talking about, built at a cost of 400 million US dollars. And one would expect, after such an investment, and given the importance of the building itself and what is going on, these are the people who make the laws governing the country. They would have a good working system. But it turns out that they actually did not. For the sake of those who may not be familiar with what he was talking about, this is what he was talking about. Excuse me, we have got some problems here with technology. Apologies. This is what the Speaker of the House was talking about. They've got one supply line from ZESA, and then they've got their own standby generator. According to the report by the senior member responsible for the administrative side of Parliament, what happened yesterday is ZESA was on standby and they were supplying Parliament from the generator. Power was lost not because the generator tripped, but because the circuit breaker to the load tripped. In other words, there was nothing wrong with the generator, and ZESA was on standby. When the circuit breaker to the load is tripped, you have to sort out the problem, that end of the load. There is nothing the standby generator or ZESA could do. And yet, the regime has already taken its measures that the Speaker of the House was threatening. Apparently, one of the senior ZESA engineers, managers, was fired by Energy Minister July Moyo. This is a typical knee-jerk reaction. Yes, we've had problems with ZESA supplies, but yesterday's incident had nothing to do with ZESA. It had to do with the system itself. The generator that was bought was running. This load side supplying the lights and everything else in the Parliament hall itself tripped. I emphasize, there was nothing wrong with ZESA. And yet, the Minister of Energy has already fired one of the ZESA engineers. This is totally unacceptable. Even if the problem was with ZESA, we know ZESA have had many problems, but it's not the engineer's fault. Zimbabwe has failed to invest the necessary money and manpower to make sure that the system is stable and well-resourced. ZESA is just one of the many institutions in Zimbabwe that have suffered from decades of poor investment and mismanagement. That is the truth. We cannot keep on blaming the individuals in a country where literally everything is in varying stages of rot and decay because of gross mismanagement, rampant corruption that has gone on for decades. It is most annoying that the ruling ZANU-PF leaders are now seeking out the victims of their own failures, because that is exactly what is happening here. Firing ZESA engineers because ZESA is not performing is the most outrageous thing anyone can do. ZESA, like NRZ, Cisco, Grain Marketing Board, and all these other parastatals have all but collapsed because of gross mismanagement by the ruling elite. ZESA has been run to the ground because government has failed to invest in the network. Because government appointed their own political appointees who have run down the institutions. The problem is with our government. That is a fact. And we cannot run away from it. And we must address it. It is interesting in this particular instance that the Speaker of the House himself knows that corruption is a problem in Zimbabwe. He is one of the many ministers who were named in the Willowville motor scandal that many people know only too well. He was allowed to come back because he has got political connections. Pure and simple. We cannot continue to pretend that the problem is with the operators, the professionals working for these institutions like ZESA or NRZ and so forth, when in fact the truth of the matter is the problem is with the ZANU-PF ruling elite. Interestingly enough, they are the ones who have refused to be held to account. They are the ones running around now whenever there is an incident, having a knee-jerk reaction, punishing the culprits, and boasting about it. And yet they are the ones who have done nothing to deal with corruption. Does the Speaker of the House, or has he never heard of our friend here, Chivayo, and what he has done all these years? Here is a member of the public asking the relevant question regarding this blackout, whether Chivayo himself was not responsible We know Chivayo was given a contract to build a solar panel substation for ZESA. He took the money and did absolutely nothing. Parliament glossed over it. Why? Because Chivayo has right connections. The Speaker of the House himself knows that. And what has he done about it? Nothing. We are looking at a situation here where Zimbabwe is a failed state because we have been stuck for 45 years and counting with a corrupt, incompetent, and tyrannical regime. And we are suffering for it. The thieves, those who are corrupt and responsible for the mess, are the ones who are sitting in judgment, firing people willy-nilly to cover up for their own incompetence. This is totally unacceptable. The people themselves have tried to hold the leaders to account. And we all know what happened in 2008, for instance. The only time when the people of Zimbabwe did have a meaningful say in the governance of the country. It was none other than Mnangagwa and Chiwenga who stepped in, stopped ZEC declaring those results, tampered with the election results so that there would be a runoff, and during the runoff, they went on to punish the people of Zimbabwe for having rejected ZANU-PF in the earlier election. That is the tragedy of Zimbabwe. It is a pity that those who are responsible for the mess we are in are the ones who are sitting now in judgment. Zimbabwe is in darkness, metaphorically. And in reality, Parliament had a taste of that darkness. And the root cause for it is our failure to hold free, fair, and credible elections. We've been stuck with the corrupt, incompetent individuals. We've made it their business to destroy the country and yet sit in judgment and to cover for their own mistakes. They blame everybody else except themselves. The ZESA engineer who has been fired is just a scapegoat. Like I explained before, the incident itself had nothing to do with ZESA. Power was being supplied from the standby generator, and ZESA supplies were on standby. The generator was still running and continued to run throughout the 10 minutes of the blackout. The blackout was caused by a circuit breaker on the load side tripping. Why you fire ZESA for that? Beggars belief. I think the ZESA engineer should be reinstated as a matter of justice. As much as ZESA has had problems, it must also be acknowledged that the root cause of those problems has been government itself. Decades of gross mismanagement and rampant corruption are the root cause. And to blame the ZESA engineers is idiotic. Think about it. Thank you very much. I would like to invite you again to join us tomorrow, 6 o'clock UK time, 8 o'clock Zimbabwean time. And also invited to join us on Saturday, same time, and Sunday. And the Saturday and Sunday versions of the discussion, you'll be invited to join the discussion. And the link for it is being shown at the bottom of the screen. Again, I'd like to thank you very much for joining us, those who were able to join us, and wish you a very good night.